And of course, Chicken Man, as you said, we got some StarCraft on in here in the upper right. In the red, he is for Storm Gaming, the king in the north. Not that king in the north, this king in the north, JonSnow.
I've heard some places that he knows nothing, but perhaps he knows a little bit something about his opponent. Spawning in the lower left-hand corner, representing Root Gaming, it is DisK.
It's almost disappointing that Cyril has gone and co-opted the title of the Night King, the King in the North, right? Because now I'm like, oh yes, we have a player who literally is kind of the King in the North at some points. And you're like, well, actually, no, that's Cyril. I'm like, we're in North America, it's fine, don't worry about it. I don't know, man. Like, there's so many names. And now we just can't call JonSnow by the moniker that the books call him by.
Well, if it makes you feel better, I think after season 8, most people stopped trying to think about Game of Thrones pretty much at all. So I haven't really heard that nickname used for Cyril in a while. So maybe JonSnow can take it back now.
Well, what I will say is I am lucky here, Chicken Man. I am blessed in the fact that I have never seen the show. I didn't watch any of it. I only read the books.
Yeah. Oh,
so,
nice.
You know, one of those benefits of growing up without HBO and then my parents not letting me watch Game of Thrones because it was, you know, too seductive for me or something. And then I didn't have to suffer. I didn't have to get addicted, and I didn't have to suffer through everything that happened when they went away from the story. So, you know what? Sometimes life hands you lemons, and they're actually made of gold.
Wow. Well, that sounds very difficult to make lemonade out of, but gold is pretty nice. I will say also, I never watched the show or read the books, so my amount of caring whether or not Game of Thrones is or was ever good is actually at 0%. So.
Well, that's oh, look at this. I'm sorry. So JonSnow, he's going for some aggression. Oh, never mind. He just took the third in the other place. I'm like, yeah, he's trying to take the third base and he's just patrolling here. And then as soon as the probe is shot away, he goes and he pulls it back. I'm like, really cool. No, he's just taking the linear third because he doesn't want to go for a queen walk build in this game. Oh, okay. Okay.
Right.
Fine.
I see. Have it your way, JonSnow. But we do have a Stargate build out of DisK. Not too surprising, but I'll be interested in seeing what units he builds. Oh, it's going to be Oracle first. All right. So not immediately into the Void Rays. In fact, potentially no Void Rays at all. I hope that we're not going to see Void Rays one of the games, you know? I'm just like, maybe it'll just be Oracles into ground. And then usually the Void Ray starts up right when I have that idea. So we'll just have to keep an eye out.
Well, I mean, you say that, but the most recent tournament, the most recent GSL Super Tournament that Trap won, he won all of his PVZs off of a much higher ground focus than he has in the previous, right? I mean, he is the progenitor of this double Stargate play. Like, that is who you think of when this happens. And then he won it off of Archons and Storm and Charge and Colossus and all of these different things. The more traditional ground-based Protoss army, which I thought was rather interesting. And then, well, GSL happened. But in general, it is a little bit more viable. I think Protoss players are starting to learn just how much more viable it is. But look at this. We're going to see the aggressive third taken from DisK and not from JonSnow.
Well, considering he is just focused on Oracles right now, it's, I guess, not too surprising. He's going to get into that ground composition like you're talking about. And I do think it's interesting how the meta kind of has been floating back and forth in PvZ for a while. And we'll see the Void Rays really take prominence. And then, okay, the Zergs are like auto-countering that. Let's go into ground where, you know, you can kind of counter what the Zerg is now doing with a lot of queens and a lot of roaches. And then you kind of go back and forth with the meta and how it works. And it's always a little bit of a guessing game what your opponent's going to do. And we did kind of see that with Trap, right? He was doing really, really well. And then Dark was like, what if I do the next stage of the meta, though? And kind of just crush Trap, right?
Yeah.
So let's, you know, it's always a little bit of back and forth, and it's different everywhere. And some players really prefer just going for that air anyways. Like we saw Mana earlier. Is Void Ray openers, are they a little weaker right now? Sure, maybe. But he's still absolutely crushed with it, you know? And a lot of that comes down to comfort and being able to take good trades. Where is that sentry going?
You know, sometimes sentries get jealous of all the Phoenix that they hallucinate that they want to make fly, and sometimes they just really want to fly too. So they figure out ways to build jump pads out of their force fields, and they find themselves onto cliffs. That's how that works 100%. But look at this. We're going to 4 oracles here. This is who was it? Was it Trap that we saw do this most recently? I think this was a GSL game actually, where he went quad oracle into ground. And it just, oracles provide you so much utility on the map early on. They can snipe down queens rather easily. If he finds this 4th base, 4 oracles will kill this base. Assuming the queens are not there to shoot away. It's just so much utility. And I don't know, I always look at quad oracle, you know, going up to a bunch of oracles, and I'm like, yeah, this is like what SOS did, you know, it's his oracle all in. But I mean, there's a reason we don't see that one anymore. Even still, cool build here from DisK. We're gonna have to see exactly where he goes from that. He's gonna get it. Wait, he's gonna get all 3 queens.
Oh my God. What micro out of DisK. And yeah, I love the Oracle. He also kept all of those oracles alive during that, including one that is at, I don't know where it is. It went down to 1 hit point. And that's impressive that he was able to keep that up.
I like that turn of phrase. I like the Oracle. Probably, I think I've heard that before, but I appreciate you bringing it back, certainly. And now,
I've definitely used it before, and you know, sometimes you just gotta make up words when you're casting. That's the really ideal way to do it.
Make up words, make up phrases, and then you're walking around and someone says it on the street. You're like, I came up with that. They're like, actually, no, this is from a book in the 1800s, but nice try. You're like, oh, well, okay. So now more. I mean, how many queens do we have on the map right now? Only 3. These
6
oracles,
queens have died. This is insane. Look at this sport crawler. It's gonna try to burrow, and these oracles are like, nah, dude, we got you.
Yeah, this
oh my God.
Actually, we're starting to get some almost untenable damage here from JonSnow. I mean, yes, he's up 33 army supply. Yes, he's building a lot of roaches, which he's, by the way, hiding. This is an all-in that he is preparing here, even as he does have that 4th base. But he's on 4 queens. He is. Oh, yeah, he's going up to 8 here. He's going for a queen walk. And you said you like going ground tech against the queen walk. Well, Storm is just about done. +1 is just about done. We're going to have Immortals on the way. We are going to have our first one just now. Charge is done. I mean, this is a powerful ground pounding army that this is going to make, assuming he hits his storms. That's the big thing. Otherwise, I mean, the supply is not really going to be there. And oh, a little bit of this army is finding its way on forward. That's unfortunate. That's not what you want.
But he is going to see some of these roaches come in. He might be able to get some static defense, but the Oracle, no. One of them goes down. He gets the tag, but he's going to need these oracles up front. These could be putting damage down on some of these roaches and ravagers right now.
Oh God.
That is a beautiful storm. A lot of damage. And he force fields some of those roaches out, just trimming off this army. JonSnow still at double the army supply of DisK, though, and he's trying to find a way around this. But there's those oracles going, taking down ravagers while the queens are desperately trying to catch up. It looks like they will finally get there. But I think the time of the oracles is about at an end, and this has all bought plenty of time for all those shield batteries to finish up and more storm energy to be gathered. JonSnow has to be very careful with this. He is not building drones behind this. There's no upgrades coming. There's no more tech. It is just this. So he needs to just win, and he is nearly maxed. He might have an opportunity to do it, but so far DisK is taking a great fight. He still has these storms available. Oh, and one landing right on top of those roaches.
Yeah, I mean, the High Templar, for a second, they almost got themselves out of position. They almost got sniped. Actually, one of them will get sniped here. Now we have no storms on the field. I don't think, yeah, no High Templar in the field whatsoever. It's all down to the beef here. And you know what? The beef has been hanging for a while. It's nice aged. It's delicious. It's absolutely what DisK needs. He's going to be able to fight this back.
Yeah, that beef, I mean, that's a big old side of beef. It's looking real good, real strong. And he's slapping that beef. He says, I can fit a lot of DPS in here. And there's 3 immortals, a ton of stalkers. And you can't underestimate just how good stalkers actually do against roaches. They can't tank a lot of damage, but they do really deal it. And with this much DPS, I don't think JonSnow can stick around too much longer. He's going to need more Ravagers to throw down Biles, but Blink is almost done to be able to avoid those.
Look at that. We got 5 more Storms on the field just now. I think, yeah, they're just about... Yeah, there we go. Now there's the energy for Storm. So with 5 Storms coming on in, I mean, yes, is Storm as good against roaches as it is against, say, Lings, Banelings, Hydras? No, it's not. but it's still damn good here when you have Archons and we have Immortals and Stalkers and all that fun stuff here. I do kind of like this from JonSnow. He's sending a little bit of his army off to die as a sacrifice. Really just zoning here says, look, okay, well, if I can't get you, I at the very least can knock your 4th base down. That's going to be a full-on base cancel here. And no, JonSnow's going to get an Immortal too, I think, but no, the Storms are going to be good. And here's the thing. We got a run by coming on into this 4th base of JonSnow. He's tried to macro out of this, right? He's tried to develop his economy just a little bit more, but he is only on 65 workers. Actually, I'm sorry, he didn't try to develop out of it. Those are just the drones from the main base.
He just main-arted them, yeah. And he looks like he's going to trade a 4th base for a 4th base. These Zealots should be able to finish this off. That's close, but it's not that close. The drones come back, but they're going to have to replace that base. And it's still just Roach Ravager tech. He's building a Bane nest, but that feels so far away. I mean, Bane speed is one of the longest upgrades right now. And it's going to be a long time. Honestly, I don't even think Banes are really that great here. This army, it's not like it's made of Adepts or a lot of Zealots. It's very Blink Stalker heavy, and there's Archons, there's Storm and Immortals. I don't really think Banelings would be the answer here, especially as he gets +2 missile attacks.
Yeah.
It's feeling like maybe Lurkers would have been the better tech to get to.
Yeah, but Lurkers are expensive. Lurkers require like 8 gas, or at least mining off a 4th base in general. That's not going to happen. But look at this Concave coming on in, the Sandwich.
Ooh.
He's going to get a lot of Stalkers here, so that's going to be nice. But you talk about Banelings, I mean, Banelings are almost comically bad against Stalkers. I mean, okay, if there's a bunch clumped together, that's fine. But, I mean, I'm sure that you've seen, I know you've seen the wonderful thing of there's a Baneling bus coming on in, there's one Stalker in the wall, and the wall dies, the Stalker doesn't.
Oh.
Right? You're just like, yeah. Okay.
It's a beautiful thing. Shield batteries are pretty dang good. But yeah, I'm very worried for JonSnow here. I feel like the longer this game goes, the worse it gets for him. He had an opportunity. He was up a ton of army supply, and it wasn't quite able to work. And now DisK is getting a really good, just anti-ground unit army together. JonSnow's going to have to take a very good fight. Lots of Biles hitting, just a big split of Roaches. Maybe if he can get the Banes on top of those High Templar, that's the best thing I can see the Banes doing.
Now, one thing I really like here is JonSnow, he understands that A, these Roaches are not all that useful. He's starting to build a bank, so he's got to spend that in some way. But B, he has like 3 clumps of Roaches here on the map at any given time. He is doing damage in the 4th base. He's trying to find his way on into the 3rd. If he can snipe these High Templar, that's going to be fantastic. But you know what? Shield batteries, I think you said they're good. Well, they appear to be good. And that just means that JonSnow, as much as he's trying to cut his opponent apart, right? Say, yeah, I got this big army. I can make it work anywhere. Well, it's not really working. I do like this, by the way. We have a Spire underway. If JonSnow can survive to this, that's actually going to be a fantastic move, right? You move on in, you trade your Roaches as well as you can. And if you get the Archons down, right, that's the big thing. You get a big swell of Mutas coming on in. Suddenly, maybe that's a possibility. But you got to survive until then. And the Storms are actually going to be somewhat decent.
Oh my God, this surround is so good. A big Disruptor shot as well, but that is going to be the only one. Biles going down on everything. Immortals kind of left in the dust down here. 1, 2 of them might fall. The Super Shield Battery holding on for now, though. Looks like that high ground is going to be a good place to be. Zealot run by getting into the 5th. Again, not a single drone has been made. It's just been drones dying for a long time now. He's down to 61. And DisK is back moving out on the map. That Spire, it's a nice decision, but with the amount of Stalkers that have been made already, and Archon's already on the map, Storm already around, is that really where you want to be going right now?
Well, I think it's the only way that JonSnow can go right now. I mean, there was a time where he had a bank, right? He had a really significant mineral bank, and you're like, okay, maybe this is going to work out. Maybe he can go Hive, maybe he can go Lurkers, whatever. But he spent that bank, and he's not getting it back here. He's only on 68 workers. He has lost his 5th base, as he's now long distance mining from there. And I think at this point, well, I guess this is how he spends his gas. 17 Ravagers, like 30 Banelings, or sorry, 13 Banelings coming on in. That's one way to spend your money.
I don't know if I like this, though. Storm does a lot better against Ravagers than it does against Roaches, I feel like. I don't know. Something about them. They don't have that armor tag. And this is a very expensive army for JonSnow all of a sudden.
Yeah, it's actually kind of funny. I don't know if you noticed. When JonSnow was up 50 army supply on his opponent, his army was cheaper. It was he was about 500 minerals and about 1,000 gas cheaper, and you're just like, oh, okay. This army's a bit
when it's
more
just
expensive.
like Roachling, you know, it's not the most expensive army. He had a lot of it though, and Well, his army supply is a little bit lower now. As I say that, he does start up 22 more lings. DisK moving out on the map again. This time he's got a big bank of disruptors. We got 4 of them here available. I don't think there's any storms anymore, though. Oh, he blinks backwards, but it's right into the banelings. Again, not doing great against the stalkers. Oh, but the disruptor shots have been pretty good. They all will fall, though, and the immortals are going to fall on the backside of this. It's just down to some stalkers and whatever disruptors are popping out now.
All right, so the mineral bank's the problem. I'm like, we're sitting here on 2,000 gas, and I'm like, now it's got to be the time, right? You wiped out so many stalkers, you wiped out all the archons. This has got to be the time where you just go into, 20 mutas and you say, wow, this is it. But he doesn't have the minerals for that. He does not have the mineral income that he needs to support getting the 20 mutas that he wants with this bank that he possibly has. And interesting. We got investors on the way, but it's not like yeah, okay, maybe it's good against the stalkers, right? You get a Ravager, you get fungal, that works out well. Banelings come crashing in. But is that really better than getting a bunch of mutas in this game state?
Well, it is a lot cheaper in terms of minerals, right? So I think it might support this better. Again, against this many stalkers, I would worry about mutas unless you could make all 25 of those at once with that gas bank. But with such a low amount of minerals, and JonSnow did remake some drones, but he's still just now getting up to 74, and that's decent, but that's no 85, 90 drone economy. He can't just spend units willy-nilly. Infestors are a really good way to be a slightly more cost efficient with your army, which I think is what he needs right now. If he can land the fungals, we also do have high tempo iron here though, right? And infestors are one of the few units that can die from the feedback still. A lot of this is going to come down to the engagement. JonSnow needs to take a great engagement. I think catching DisK off guard might be the way to go about it. If he's able to get on top of the army when DisK isn't paying attention, he could land some really money fungals, and that fungal Ravager combination is so good.
Yeah, I don't know that DisK has seen the infestors yet. I don't believe he has. Granted, of course, JonSnow, he's sitting here, he's missing burrows, so that's always going to be a problem when you have infestors, right? You want to be able to hit them from the flank, hit the flanking fungal. But I mean, DisK, he's just advancing his tech, right? We have disruptors now. They're doing a good job fighting against all the Roach Ravager. That's fantastic. We got double Colossus underway, right? This army is going to be even more powerful here rather soon. Disruptor shot is going to go on out. But I like what JonSnow is doing, right? He is very conscientiously hiding these. Oh, he's got one. Oh, I thought that was going to be so much better than it was. A little bit of a fungal. Some great storms to cover the retreat. The Colossi getting completely caught, though. There are some more storms available, but the Biles and the fungals are hitting decently. It's a big battle of spells right now. Great Biles on the retreat there. Get another disruptor. And at the end of the day, it's kind of a wash. It's a wash that JonSnow cannot afford because... Yeah. Yes, he's kind of mining more. Not even. It looks like his DisK has finally established another mining base. But his bank is not there. We look at resources lost. He has 5K in deficit. That's about half a base's worth of minerals right there. And we're getting to the point where, with equal economy, DisK is just really starting to pull ahead from an efficiency perspective. He's got +3 attack. He's got +1 armor underway. He's getting double Colossus at a time. Yeah, JonSnow got really lucky and that he was able to knock down those Colossus before they really joined the fight, but he did have to spend a lot of banelings to do so. And now this army's going to move on in. The fungal's going to miss here as JonSnow, he was forced to react.
Big run by there. I mean, it's not a lot of zealots, but it is very difficult to deal with. The storms are just, they're perfectly on position of where those units are coming from. They're all trickling in. And I think this Stalker army is now too strong. DisK continually taking efficient trades there and not trying to tech to carriers or anything, not getting caught with his pants down and 3 carriers in production, but not enough on the ground. He just kept it all on the ground there with the Blink Stalkers, with the Immortals, getting into Disruptors and even Colossi. I think the Storms were really the game changer, though. Constant damage out from those Storms.
Yeah, really, really great Storms there. And it's kind of funny. I don't know what's funny, but you don't think of Storms as being all that great against Roaches, and we just saw them absolutely get melted. I feel like if JonSnow, after he makes that first burst happen, and he is able to cancel the 4th base, I think if he transitions harder, right, trades off some Roaches, gets more drones, gets that 4th base, maybe moves into Hive, maybe moves into Lurk, something, he was in a good enough position that he could have made that transition happen. But I cannot remember the last time I saw a Zerg player go 20 minutes into a game without a Hive. Right, he just got 2-2-2. He just got 2-2-2. I mean, it almost like he got some good fights, I guess.
Yeah, it does put kind of a limit on how far you can go in the
Mm.
game, but it is very funny. It's kind of the Roach Boy tactic. I feel like there are a lot of Korean Zergs that have played that kind of style.
Yeah, that
Where you get like maybe like an Impact or somebody who it's just we're lair tech. We are lair tech, and that's the whole game.
yeah, kind of reminds me of Sue a little bit. Unfortunately, all of those players, they're in the military, they're retired. So, anyways, we have game number 2 here. It's Lightshade. It's a bit smaller of a map. Let's see what happens. Into the upper left, in the blue, he's up 1-0 in this series. Root for root, he is DisK.
And his opponent in the lower right-hand corner, representing Storm Gaming, he is JonSnow. And that is a cheeky early pool we got here. That's a little old 12 pool.
That it is. No, I love I love to make people mad. I'm like, yeah, it's a 12 pool. That's a macro opener. And they're like, what are you talking about? It's a 12 pool. I'm like, yes, exactly. That's what it is. Because functionally, that's what a 12 pool is. But it's always funny to see people freak out about it. Like, it's aggressive.
Well, it's what a 12 pool can be. A 12
fair.
pool is a beautiful thing. It can be whatever you want it to be. It can be a macro opener. It can also be the exact opposite of a macro opener. In this case, it looks like JonSnow is just going to be sending his, 10, 12 Zerglings across the map. He's going to be expanding with it. So he's using it as a macro, kind of a tempo play, right? He wants to disrupt DisK's build. And once upon a time, a lot of Protosses struggled with dealing with this. Now it's a very popular build over the last year or so. So I don't think we're going to see DisK make too big of a mistake. As I say that, that Zealot gets completely caught. And that is going to go down very quickly.
Is it? Is this a mistake? I don't think so. I mean, okay, 4 Zerglings find their way on in now, but that was, 6 Zerglings on the bounty there? 4 Zerglings on the bounty. We have a couple more running across the map. Actually, never mind. I'm sitting here, I'm like, oh, that's actually looks like it might have been a great play. But the Zealot didn't get one more swipe off, and suddenly it's a big problem here. Now, 4 Zerglings don't fight probes all that well. They do a decent job.
Yeah, and they got a little bit stuck in there. It's not the end of the world for DisK, but it's certainly not the ideal. Looks like some are playing Ring Around the Rosie with a with the probe down on the low ground there, but they ended up losing that battle to the Adept. And it's just going to be the 2 Lings in the main trying to get a little bit of damage done. It turned out not to be too bad, but I don't think it was exactly what DisK wanted to start off with.
No, he lost the Zealot. He lost a couple workers. He had to pull workers that just to make sure that nothing happened. It didn't work anyways. And now DisK, he's at a bit of a tempo disadvantage, right? What did he lose in totality? Two workers, 1 Zealot, which means he lost just about as many resources, 200 to 250, whatever. So JonSnow will still be a little bit behind in workers. And the one downside of committing your Zerglings in a 12 pool like that is you got to make more when they run Adepts and when they run Zealots across the map. That is actually one of the things that made that death of a Zealot actually just so nice for JonSnow, because often after the 12 pool, you see the Protoss, they said, yes, I got a Zealot here, I got 2 Adepts, this sounds great, I'm going to go put pressure on. And that addition of a tanky Zealot on top of the Adepts makes life so much more difficult for the Zerg player. They got to build so many more Zerglings, and knocking that down, well, that is just so much better here for JonSnow.
Yeah, absolutely. But the 2 Adepts are still going to sneak in. They're getting a couple of drones. It looks like it might be about time to try to shade out one. No, neither of them are going to make it. So 3 drones there. Both of the Adepts go down. That's not super ideal for DisK. I feel like a lot of players tend to just try to keep the Adepts alive rather than go for drones. So I'm a little surprised he canceled the shade out and instead decided to sack those Adepts for a little bit of lost mining time and a couple of drones, because it's going to make it a lot harder to take the 3rd base, which is usually the ideal here once this Void Ray gets out. But we see something interesting on JonSnow's side of the map, which is a lair. This is a 2-base lair. What do we think his plans with that lair are?
It's got to be Nidus, right? I mean, it's not going to be 2-base Spire. That's not a thing in ZVP. I mean, I've seen, No Regret try to do it, but that's also No Regret. That doesn't really count. And we don't have enough gas for that anyway. So, well, we're going to have to see whether that works on out. We have a Twilight underway here. DisK is transitioning out of this target. He's got one Void Ray for map control, and that's going to be just about it. And there, yeah, this is going to be 2 base Roach Nidus. Okay. We're going to have to see whether this one works out.
Ooh. You know, I like the idea of the DTs, but I'm a little bit afraid that it is going to backfire completely if one Overseer is made. But that's a big if, because you know what? JonSnow didn't get that layer for detection. And there's not an Overlord on the other side of the map. He might get there with... Okay, so he's not going for a Nidus. All right. Well, never mind. I actually think the DTs might not really do anything then.
Yeah,
I assume one Overseer will be made by the time that Dark Shrine is done, and if JonSnow's going to play defensively with +1 and Roach speed on the way for a little while, then yeah, we'll see.
What a weird build from JonSnow. I mean, this is a late third base. He's sitting here down 7 workers on a Protoss for a while, but he's, I mean, I guess this
is like a ZVZ build.
Yeah.
This is like the ZVZ follow-up to a 12 pool, where you're like, okay, now I got to turtle on 2 bases for a minute, get some roaches out, and then I can take my third. And if he has detection for the DTs, I'm going to call this a good build.
Wait.
If he doesn't, then... Is he just walking now?
Yeah, he's just walking queens. It's a +1 speed Roach queen timing off of 2.5 bases, 38 workers. Not something I've seen before, or seen all that often here, but we're gonna have to see. I actually think it feels like really well.
Got there a weird way, but yeah, the lack of an Overseer here. Oh, look, he turns around immediately, but you know what doesn't run away? Queens. They're not gonna make it, and JonSnow, Transfuse is gonna last a little while, but he is losing a lot of these queens. And then all DisK has to do is turn around as soon as this Overseer is done, and look at that. 4 DTs just killed 5 queens.
Yeah, that's and look, they can run home. Shield batteries are underway. They're not here yet, but they can run home. They can turn themselves into Archons if needs be, or you just target down the Observer or the Overseer.
You just do that. Transfuse goes down. The Void Ray gonna sack for it though. The Void Ray might be able to live if it runs. Look at that. Oh my. And suddenly everybody in chat is going to start typing Protoss with spaces between all the letters. I think that's about what we're looking at right now. Now, JonSnow still has an opportunity to make something happen. He's got a lot of Roach Ravager. And the queens, you know, the queen part of this walk isn't nearly as necessary because there's just that one void. But super overcharged use, that is going to get taken out very quickly. This is still looking very scary. You know what? Maybe I spoke a little too soon.
And now, of course, DT on the other side of the map causing chaos as well, making JonSnow even more all-in than he already is. Now, there's one thing I've long questioned, there's one thing I've long asked about, is why in the world do we see Protoss not do the Brood War thing of, you know, effectively Phoenix DT? But anyways, we're going to have to ask that question for a later time. As, yeah, the DTs, they're going to knock out all of these queens. Actually, that's just going to be enough here with the Immortal as well. This army is dead, the queens are dead, and probes are dying on the other, or drones are dying on the other side of the map.
You know what? It was very close to just working for JonSnow. It looked like he had such a huge army lead, but DisK made a great call. He pulled back behind his natural wall, and the queens, you know, they just can't make it up that ramp, and they got cleaned up on the backside. And all of a sudden, some of that DPS just went right away. DisK with the Immortal popping out, another Warpin, had just a ton of Stalkers. He's getting into Blink. He is up so many workers. JonSnow trying to remake drones, but he only lost like 5 or 6. He was pretty all in before that. And this one DT has caused him such a headache.
Yeah, the DT's got 3 kills. I think there's a second one, or maybe it just died.
There must have been.
Yeah, there was another one that got damaged in the first place, but I think it just died by the rally. But yeah, Protoss, Invisible Men, all of those fun things. Really nice hold there from DisK, honestly. It's hard to do to make sure you have that hold work. The DT hold, of course. When you actually... Okay, looks like the DT died. It makes that hold very hard to make happen when you know there's detection in the field. I mean, these were speed roaches. There was detection visible. So he did a really good job of like waiting till the last second, actually finding the Ravager cocoons morphing, serving as a force field there for the queen. So all the queens got targeted on down. And now, I mean, JonSnow, he's down 10 workers even after droning heavily. He only has 3 bases. He's got +2 attack. Sure, that's fine. He will have a 2 upgrade lead over his opponent. DisK is just about even on army supply with a Zerg player that is going all in. The traditional metric, right, when we're looking at, hey, is a Protoss all in working, is, well, are they equal in army supply with their opponent, right? Do they have enough stalkers to equalize the amount of roaches, whatever? We're here now. DisK is doing it is defensive, and he is equal in army supply against an all-inning Zerg. And that's even scary. If we look at the army value here, it's plus 500 minerals, just plus 1,000, or plus 500 gas, plus 1,000 minerals here. This is a scary army from DisK. Now, that being said, it looks like this fourth base will get canceled once again. DisK just making a habit of getting his bases canceled en route to winning games.
Yeah, but you know what? I think he's totally fine with canceling that. Because again, JonSnow's on 54 drones. His fourth base isn't even done yet. It's only halfway done. And now JonSnow knows, DisK knows exactly where JonSnow's army is. He's going to go take a fight, some great force fields. Looks like the Biles are going to force him backwards, but I think there's just going to be too much Protoss here. These Stalkers are a little bit down in upgrades, but they are just very, very strong. The Robo Bay is done as well, so we can start to see Disruptors coming out. These Immortals get left a little bit on their own. Looks like there was a little Roach counterattack killing 7 probes, but some drones going down at the same time. And this main base is under assault for JonSnow. That's just more damage he really can't afford to be taking right now.
That now DisK, of course, has Blink Stalkers as well. So DisK actually probably one of the better North American Protoss players in terms of Blink play. It's probably him and Nina. So I put really up there in terms of, wow, they just make their living off of Blink micro. It's insane. So DisK now, he's got his primary composition. He's knocking down a lot of creep. Fourth base is under fire. It looks like DisK, I thought he was going to drop on the other side, but no. He's going to get about half damage here. Later on, when his +1 is done, when charge is done, maybe he's going to go back and try to finish that job. What I will say is JonSnow, he is climbing in supply just a little bit. And this army that DisK has made, it's, as you said in the last game, it's super fragile. A lot of Blink Stalkers, yeah, with Blink, they stay alive a little bit longer. And they do a lot of DPS, but they're down an upgrade, and they will struggle to fight here just a little bit, especially on creep. Force fields are going to be nice, but immediately they're going to get biled on down. But now there's the Disruptor shot coming
Disruptor.
on.
Oh, my God.